Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the second webinar. Our previous webinar focused on what is going on when we are undergoing change. This one will provide us with the tools to manage better. I'm Joseph Meyber. I'm owner and founder of the Time Factory and author of 2 coaching books. My aim is to make you a better leader. My vision is to ensure that we create an army of change makers to lead South Africa and the world out of this pandemic and into a new normal. We started the introductory webinar way back last week with our thinking and discussions aimed at what is the problem we want to solve. And I want us to reflect on this again before we start the session today. What is the purpose of the webinars? And how does it align perhaps with your personal purpose, and how does that in turn influence your business's purpose? I think our first thinking bite is change is just expanding exponentially all over the place. And remember, this slide was the picture before the pandemic. We are finding more stresses as we move around amongst our client base, and these things are just becoming more and more prevalent. We are finding more change stressors as we move around amongst our client base, and we've grouped it into 4 distinct areas. Number 1, in the work-life balance, seriously impacted. Businesses in the second cluster finding it difficult to collaborate with employees working offline or a blended version. Some are in the office and some are working offline. And then the third cluster, where we found that leaders need to acquire new skills to lead in times like these. And then the 4th cluster, the always difficult thing of making change stick or make it work. The purpose of this webinar series then, we want to ensure that we awaken and equip as many change makers as is possible. We want them to lead the way to the new normal, and we want people to be open to perceive the patterns. They must be able to identify the problems, solve the problems, and then most importantly, perhaps organize fluid teams who move as one, and they have the ability to adapt continually as the situation changes.
Some changes look negative on the surface, but you will soon realize that space is being created in your life for something new to emerge, according to Eckhart Tolle. This is not something that comes natural to us, but the sooner we learn that in every crisis there is opportunity, which is also the Wei Chi for Chinese uses the 2 symbols, and the one means crisis and the other one means opportunity, the better and more enabled we will be to deal with change, because that is a constant. This is an important tool to use, and one that I personally find very valuable because we've got to understand the difference between our feelings and our emotions. That is very important because it explains how we behave in this world. The more we get behind what we experience and how that impacts on our behaviors. But if I, for example, so you start in the middle of the circle, and just knowing I'm fearful of something, say, let's use an example of people are fearful now, ones that they've lost their jobs or that have lost contracts and need to get back into the business quite quickly. Just knowing that I'm fearful doesn't help me to necessarily identify and implement the correct strategies. But if I go out to the next circle and I look at fear again, and I'm looking whether I'm feeling horror or nervousness or insecurity, terror, scared, I can then say, yes, I'm maybe feeling nervous about how I'm going to pay the bills or how life is going to pan out and what the new normal is going to look like. And I'm scared if I will be able to operate in that. Then looking at the outer circle, I can again go through the next level of more granular emotions. And if I then, for example, identify that I'm anxious about how the bills will be paid, or I feel inadequate to operate in this new environment, being able to then develop strategies for the anxiety and the inadequacy will give me so much of a better result than just trying to deal with the fact that I'm fearful. So the more in touch we become with ourselves, the more we are able to identify those emotions very granularly and then apply the right strategies and get plans in place to deal with it and help us along the journey.
How easy is it for me to navigate this on my own, all of these stages? Or would I need some help?
You know, there's a reason why psychologists are legally required to see a psychologist. Because we know that even if we ourselves have a lot of the insight into the theory, we still need people to develop and guide and grow our understanding and our skills. In terms of organizations, as I said, we do this in a lot more depth. We do a lot more training on the specific skills required. And guide and then also link it back to a fit for purpose change management methodology based on assessments about where the organization is, what their change memory is, what their, a number of assessments linking into a customized methodology and approach. And this is the softer skills, if we may call it that. I don't like calling it that because they're actually the ones that's contributing or deducting from the bottom line around the skills and capabilities. Does that answer your question, Yolanda? Do you want to add any or other questions?
Thank you, Anita. I think the reality is we go through it in ourselves, and anyhow, it's just as if we can equip people to understand these phases and cycles and provide them with the tools, people become more and more efficient. And whether it's helping themselves through this or actually supporting their teams or family members, whatever the case might be, that sort of capability is instilled within individuals, which make us more resilient in these kind of environments.
Okay, no, but thank you for that, and I really hope you guys will be part of the rest of our webinars. There's still some make change stick coming up later in the series, where I would also like your insights and collaboration on. Thank you very much. I'm going to end this webinar now, and we're looking forward to Fridays.